I am Penny Lucas White, head women's volleyball coach at the Alabama State University. I was a basketball player. That's what I did. I had 7 brothers. I was the only girl. They had a basketball goal everywhere. And I'm gonna tell my age a little bit. This is when they first started busing us out of our neighborhoods, segregate us with mainstream America. And I was in 10th grade. And I go to Terra High School, and they don't have basketball. And the PE teacher, which was then the head volleyball coach, says, "No, we don't have basketball, but we have volleyball." I don't play volleyball. I'm a basketball player. So she asked me to try out, and so I tried out. And Myra Smith, who is now Myra Manser, loves to tell this story. After every practice that week, I would go, "How did I do? How did I do?" And she would say, "Oh, you're doing okay." And she's like, "Young lady, you're gonna take me to the state championship." I didn't know, but I fell in love with volleyball, and I started playing volleyball. So I'm playing at LSU my freshman year, and I didn't know any better. I didn't know. All I know is I like to win. I'm going to always give you 100% on the court, and I'm a fierce competitor. And I ended up getting MVP my freshman year. I still don't understand the significance of that. And then the next year, Ruth Nelson comes in, but my high school coach had put me in the back of her Suburban and had driven us all the way to Houston, where Ruth Nelson was the head coach there. She also trained Flo Hyman, Rita Crockett, Rose Major Powell, all of these Olympians. She's trained all these guys before they went. And lo and behold, a year later, she comes to LSU. And so I began to play for Ruth Nelson. I played the next 2 years up to my junior year, and then I go pro. I did. That was an asterisk. That was a great moment for me to be able to wear red, white, and blue and represent United States of America. I have developed lifelong friendships with all of my teammates. I mean, we lived together, we trained together, we ate together, we did so many beautiful things together, and still some of us are still coaching, some of us, a couple of them are millionaires, married some professional athletes and some professional men, but we played for years, and a lot of us went abroad after the national team, and some of us are still in coaching. So it's been a beautiful journey just to be able to put on red, white, and blue and to represent my country. It was, I played in Germany for 2 years. I played in Italy for 3 years. Parlo Italiano. I speak Italian. I understand Italian. My grammar isn't great, but I took my Air Force Academy team back to the city in which I played for, and we walk into the gym, and the same janitor that was there when I played 15 years prior was still there. And as soon as he saw this big bus pull up with all of these Americans stepping off, he got on the phone and he called our president, and we call it Società, but basically our administration, and they all came out. And they took my team out on the town, they fed them. It was just one of the greatest moments ever. They told anybody that was close by, Penny is in town, and they all came and met my team, and it was great. And then my girls they just had a blast just running around the city that night because we were leaving to come back to the States the next day. It takes off, and this is funny. You'll notice I'm calling up all these names. Volleyball, we think is a huge community. I think we're a small community and we're all interconnected. So I get married to an officer in the Air Force I met in Italy, and we hadn't been married 3 weeks, but we're living in Homestead, Florida. And I go to work Mary Wise's camp at the University of Florida. And I'm there and I'm working the camp, and a fax comes across her desk, and it says, from the University of Memphis, then Memphis State, we're in need of a head coach. Do you have any recommendations? And so we're all sitting in Mary's office eating and just chopping it up. And she says, "Penny, I think you'll be really good for this job." I said, "Really? I've never head coached." "You'll be fine, trust me." So Then Lynn Parks, the senior women's administrator at Memphis State, calls Mrs. Lawler, who's the administrator at Florida. She goes out in court, watches me train on my court that entire afternoon, and calls Miss Parks back and says, she's the one. I get the job on site, unseen. I pack up my bags, leave my new husband, and head to Memphis, Tennessee, which he joins me 9 months later. He gets out of the military and follows me and start working, for the federal government. And that is the beginning of the rest of my story. I coach. Absolutely. And I love Rose Majors Powell at A&M. We were teammates at LSU, and I know a lot of people know that. We played together at LSU. We have been the best of friends for years. And it's crazy because when I go up to A&M and we stay there, I go over to her home that night for dinner or whatever. When she comes here, I go hang out at the hotel, and the kids don't understand that, because once we step out on the court, the camaraderie goes on the side. It's a dog fight at that point. It's all about winning, but we understand that. And finally, we got our young women to the point where when we're at the roundups, those two teams are together, but when it's time to play, it's a dog fight. I have to correct you. I'm one of the lucky ones. My shoulder never bothers me. That's called warming it up. But you know how the older you get, the bigger the story becomes. So, it grows every year, but we'll keep telling each other it was all in the plan. Rose was actually my setter. Everybody thinks she was and she hit also, but she set for us, ran a fluid offense at the time, and it was a great experience. All I remember is tough practices back then, but we were so close. I don't know if we ever went at each other the way my girls go at each other right now, because they really do make each other better. But I think we were more all about supporting, because we had tasks, we had numbers we had to get, we had to do this. But those practices are far distant. I don't really remember that, but if you ask me after we got older and started playing in the US Open, who hit the hardest, we both gonna say, I did. Well, I'm gonna tell you a story, and this is what I didn't know about myself. I'll tell you what the pandemic has done. It has given us all enough time to reflect and to really sit back and evaluate who we are. And I don't remember, I just had the conversation with LaToya last night, my assistant, and I said, I think it surprised me when one of my parents, because I've been watching a little kindergartner and a first grader kind of helping out over the summer. But their mom always acts like she's afraid of me, but the dad was my assistant, so Tim Ellis. And she never knew that side of me. And the kids say, Coach Penny is awesome. What are you talking about? Coach Penny takes us to the park. Coach Penny does this. Coach Penny, she buys us treats. And so finally yesterday she says, Coach Penny, I have to tell you, you are a totally different person outside of volleyball. I'm like, what do you mean? So I called LaToya and I said, Toy, am I really different during volleyball season? She said, night and day. I'm like, are you serious? I said, that's a blind spot of mine. She says, no, Penny, you are totally different. And so clearly I knew things change. But what I realized is that once I set my mind to something, once I agree with my whole being, and I'm committed to winning championships here. When the first day of practice starts, I have only one goal in mind. And with that one goal in mind, as the leader, I have to transfer that belief to my players. So I have to transfer what I believe to them until they get to the place where they believe it also. And my job isn't done until we've reached that goal. Now, I may have to do it differently because every year the group is different. But when I tell you from August to December, that's grind time. And then you get the sweet penny. After that, Travis, I wouldn't have known that until you told me. I didn't realize you know what I'm saying? The first year we got to the end and we looked back, we says, oh, we didn't lose. Because really, I think the thing that I have to make sure that they understand is once you win, it's history. There's a new goal, there's a new target in front. And I'm not saying don't celebrate the wins, because I think you should. But what I'm saying is the people that are in front of you on the other side of the net, they got one goal in mind, and that's to beat the Hornets. And now, after a year, the second year was tough. It was stressful going into, but we were so strong. We didn't lose anybody. And I think when you have a Corey Cooch and Justice Tuliolo-Sega, and I knew with those two setters at quarterbacks, we good. You got Anasia, we got Bailey, we still had Krista, we had Brianna. We were so deep. We had a lefty, Tam. We were so deep that those 2 years we were solid. We were very solid, and the competition started recruiting better. They really, really did. But we were solid as a unit, and the chemistry was good. And so we had strong leadership in Candace and in Corey, so we were solid. It's when leadership changes, culture change. Now the last 2 years has been tough because one, I think on paper we weren't as strong as our opponents. Not on paper, but we were stronger here. And so that's the mental side that I applaud my women on because of the way we train. We're not just in it physically, trying to train physicality, we're training a mentality. So that was important. And so, and at the same time, the generation changed. I know I'm going on and on, I'm sorry. The generation changed. We went from millennials to Gen Z, and that's where I had to make a change. So I really felt like, it was actually 2 seasons ago, I was communicating, but we were communicating like this. I was not connecting. I was doing a lot of talking. There was zero connection. I invested in myself, and I go down to Orlando, Florida, and I sit under John C. Maxwell for 5 days, and it was the best 5 days of my life. And I have so many aha moments, but the one aha moment that really stuck with me, and they have so many coaches in the room, it's 3,000 of us, so many coaches in the room, and I got this big burly guy sitting next to me, just like yourself. And I have never juggled before, and the guy, Roddy, gets up and says, I want you to teach your mate how to juggle. And so guy gets up, God forgive me, I can't remember his name. He says, okay, Penny, I want you to do this, this, and this. I want you to put one ball in one hand, put another ball in the hand, I put 2 balls in one hand. He gave me all the methodical instructions. Boop, boop, ball falls, ball falls. We spent the next 5 minutes picking up balls. Then Roddy sits us down, and then he says, now, that's how you guys are used to coaching, just giving directives, just giving directives. He says, I want to show you that the student already knows how to juggle. Ask the student questions. Ask her what she wants, how does she think she's gonna get there, and what the process is, basically. So after we listen to Roddy, he goes through these things, and really, the guy says, so Penny, what do you want to do? I want to juggle. I want to juggle through at least minimum 2 cycles. And if I can get these balls through 3 cycles, I'm good. How are you going to do that? I'm going to hold 2 balls in one hand and 1 in the other. And I'm going to make sure that I always have 1 ball ascending in the air as I move the balls around. He says, and then what? I said, and I'm going to move the ball, and I'm talking to him, right? I juggle. I get through 3 cycles. I don't know this guy from Adam. I felt like I just won a gold medal. I jump on top of him and I hug him because All he did was spark my genius. And that's what we have to do. And I stopped communicating with my student athletes the way I previously did, because Gen Z already has the answer. And if you think about it, they've been in the gym with me. They've heard the same cues over and over again. They went up against bigger and better blocks and the whole nine. So why are you yelling or saying, pass the ball? They know they didn't pass the ball. How about call a timeout and say, hey guys, what's going on? Now this freaked me out, but I really started doing it. So what do you guys think's going on? We need to pass the ball. So what does that look like? How do we need to do that? We need to do this, this, and this, coach. I said, okay, so when we go out and we're gonna pass the ball, after we pass the ball, what do you guys think we need to do? We need to execute, and hey guys, they're weak in this position. When we get out of system, just place, then all of a sudden now they're thinking, they're self-resolving. So now they're playing the game and they're a step ahead of our opponents. So then I get to sit back down and kind of watch the game a little bit from a more strategic standpoint, whereas before I just get fired up. But it didn't work with this group. Gen Z don't roll that way. That's not who they are. That's not who they are. Quite different. I think what's beautiful is that most of the young women that are here at Alabama State are friends with my daughter, Kayla White, because Kayla works out with them. Kayla plays pickup ball with them. But my 3 children has kept me in touch with today's youth to the point where I can talk cool if I have to. I can, point, period. So I can do that when I have to. But they also know how important my kids are to me. So when the girls, if they're over at the house, they get it. And even the team will tell you here, whatever you do, don't lie to Coach White. Because my biological children will tell you, I don't care how bad it is, don't lie to her, because she gonna always have you back. But if you lie to her, you know, then she's always looking at you kind of side-eye. But they understand how important family is to me. And that's really how I feel about my team here. The goal is to get them all across the stage with a degree. That was incredible. I was able to take Alabama State and play in Portland and then put them on a plane and then drive up the way to Corvallis and see my firstborn play at Oregon State. That meant the world to me. And then I was able to take the girls out to Colorado to play at the University of Northern Colorado and stay over a couple days and spend time with Kayla in Denver. So I have a very special job that I enjoy doing. It allows me to see the best of both of my worlds. Why Alabama State? And I'll tell you why Alabama State. I think this is the first institution that has a population that looks like me. This is also an institution that is unconditional to our student athletes and that gives second chances. And I think for the first time, my experience coming here, my first experience in a pep rally or at a convocation and listening to them sing gospel music and feeling it was incredible. I've never had that before. And so that sold me. And then just to be able to relate to a lot of girls that have a lot of backgrounds that looks like mine. 1, I'm Big Mama. I'm gonna do what you can't do when you're at home. 2, I'm confidant. I'm Big Sister. I'm gonna be that soft place to fall. 3, I'm their coach. I'm gonna build them into being the best student athlete they can be. And then 4, I'm human. And I want the best for their kid, for their young daughter. I'm Penny Lucas White, and that's my story.